Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Now for today's video, I wanted to talk about a scene that was originally planned for Jurassic Park 4. The scene I'm going to go over actually comes from the infamous John Sayles script that was delivered to Steven Spielberg in the early 2000s. And in it, we would have gotten a very brief but also very interesting scene where a new marine reptile called a Kronosaurus would have made its one and only appearance. In the script, John Hammond recruits a former Navy SEAL by the name of Nick Harris and tasks him with traveling back to Isla Nublar in order to retrieve the Barbasol can that Dennis Nedry had back in '93. After the dinosaurs began to migrate to the mainland, John Hammond wanted to retrieve the DNA inside of that can in order to clone new dinosaurs that were highly aggressive and sterile. The goal was to have these new creatures attract their older relatives and kill each other once they met, cutting down on the invasive species and correcting what he called an evil mistake that he brought onto the world. Kind of completely out of character for him if you ask me, but anyways, Nick agrees to the mission and makes his way back to the island. Now, after an extended chase scene involving the aforementioned Excavaraptors that I talked about recently, Nick would actually dive into open water in order to reach his contact, a man named Darwin who was waiting for him in a small plane. Unfortunately for him, this is where the Kronosaurus would appear. You see, after getting startled by the Excavaraptor, Darwin would actually take off prematurely and leave Nick stranded in the water. When he did this, he pulled up a piece of wooden stump that he was using to anchor the aircraft. Well, when this piece of wood began skimming the water, it acted as a kind of trolling bait that lured in the big marine reptile. And once it had its mind set to a specific target, it made short work of it. The Kronosaurus eventually bit down on the wood and caused a great deal of damage doing it. The entire tail end of the plane was ripped apart and the aircraft would come tumbling down to the ocean soon after. After all of that chaos, Darwin would emerge from the plane, stand on top of the wreckage, and ask Nick what had happened. And it's at this very moment when the two of them would notice a small disturbance in the water. Straight from the script, the next scene plays out like this. Hey, those security dudes don't have like a submarine, do they? We pan with his gaze. Something big and long is moving fast, just under the water's surface, straight at Darwin on the wrecked plane. Darwin is standing now, backing his toes away from the water. Cause unless that's a flipper, The Kronosaurus breaks surface and snatches Darwin in its jaws, half its enormous body clearing the water, then smacks down into the water and dives, a huge serrated fluke slapping the surface as it disappears. Nick is stunned for a second, then looks to the shore. The digger is stalking the beach, watching him. Can't go back there. Nick begins to swim parallel to the shore, looking around for signs of the sea monster. Fortunately for Nick, a helicopter would soon show up in order to save him from any further harm. A ladder would drop from the chopper and Nick would try to grab it while it skims the ocean, once again attracting the Kronosaurus and giving us another good chase scene. What ends up happening is a super close call where Nick gets away from the marine reptile by the skin of his teeth. Think about a happier ending than what happened to the mercenary at the beginning of Fallen Kingdom. After that, the animal recedes back into the water and we never see it ever again. John Sayles' Jurassic Park 4 script contains a lot of little scenes like this, depicting new dinosaurs that sort of show up, start a chase sequence, and then disappear from the entire runtime. Earlier encounters happen to be a few pteranodons attacking a kid's baseball game, the Excavaraptors climbing from their holes and killing people, and then another small chase with some spitters. In a sense, the first act of JP4 feels a lot like JP3, where you kind of get chased from here to there, not much really happens in between. Unlike Jurassic Park 3, John Sayles' script would have introduced the series' first official marine reptile had it ever gotten produced and projected on the big screen. For those of you who don't know, the Kronosaurus was one of the biggest plesiosaurs that lived in the early Cretaceous. Their bodies were shaped similarly to something like the Mosasaurus, which we finally got to see in Jurassic World, and they could grow to be around 36 feet or so in length. Interestingly, John Sayles' version is described as having a tail fluke and a bunch of barnacles covering its head, giving it a pretty weird look when compared to most other aquatic creatures. Now, of course, Kronosaurus hasn't really made its way into the film canon in any big way before in the franchise. But if you dig up this old script from around 2004, you'll see that at one point in time, there were indeed plans to show it briefly, but still quite effectively. In the future, I may start to talk more about Jurassic Park 4 and just how wild it was going to get before the Jurassic World movies started coming out. While I don't particularly agree with a lot of the things that they were trying to do in this old follow-up to JP3, I do enjoy the fact that it's a pretty important part of Jurassic Park history, and it's something that I think people would love to learn about if they could just be filled in on more of it. Now, what do all of you guys think about this unmade scene that would have featured the Kronosaurus? Do you enjoy how it reads? Or do you think it was best to leave it behind with everything else that appears in the script? Whatever your own thoughts and personal opinions happen to be, I'd love to hear them in the comments down below. Now before I go, I'd like to thank all of my game wardens, as well as all of my InGen executives. I'd also like to thank all of my park workers and InGen hunters as well. Guys, it seriously means the world to me that you all even continue to watch these videos, and I want to thank each and every one of you for all of your continued support. Now, I'd like to thank all of you for watching this video and hope you all enjoy today's content. If you feel like I deserve it, I'd appreciate the like and hope that you'll consider subscribing if you're interested in hearing from me again. I'll see you on the next one, guys, and as always, take it easy.